Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. You are awesome. How can I put this? You're here doing some self-improvement. This is the weekly live stream I do where we talk about entrepreneurship and business and obviously side hustles, which are a great way of putting your toe in the water of the world of business and entrepreneurship without having to commit, really. It's a great thing, and I would encourage anyone to do this. So if you are interested in side hustles from the perspective of you want to add another revenue stream to your life, or the fact that you want to learn about business, you want to work for yourself, or you have that rebellious streak and you don't want to be an employee under somebody else's thumb your entire life, that's what you're thinking, that's where you're coming from. That's great. I applaud you. I think you're awesome. And the key to being able to do that is knowledge. And that's what we're here to talk about today. The title of this episode, this is episode 97 of Side Hustle Ideas, is Business School Still Relevant? 2025 Truth. So we're going to get into that today. And I've got a whole presentation here for you. But as always, a special shout out goes out to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. My Patreons, my super thanks donors, and of course to you, my participants. Thank you for being here. This is primarily a live Q&A. So if you've been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. Get in the chat box. Let me know what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with when it comes to the world of entrepreneurship and side hustles. That's what we're talking about. And also today, business school, because that's the topic. And we're going to be looking at this primarily from the perspective of someone who wants to learn business for the sake of being an entrepreneur. But we're going to cover it all. So thank you for being here. Okay. Let's get into this. I've got a bit of a presentation. Let's see if I can get it working for me. Here we go. Okay, right on. So here we go. The big question. Is an MBA still worth it? For those of you who don't know, an MBA is a Master's of Business Administration. It is the gold standard of do you know business? It is a master's level degree. That means it's not the first degree you take in university. Usually that's a bachelor degree. Usually it's anywhere between 2 and 5 years to do a bachelor degree. Then you would do a master's degree, which is maybe 1 or 2 years. And that's what this is. This is the master's degree in business. So that means theoretically that you are a master. You know what you're doing when it comes to business. And business, as hopefully everybody knows, is the scientific study of how to make money. So that's what business is. Now, if you want to learn how to make money, how to manage money, that kind of thing, that's what you learn business for. That's ultimately what it's for. And business is a collection of several different subjects. There's about 10 main ones. Things like marketing, accounting, HR, operations, finance, things like this, and then there's a whole bunch of specialties you can do, like project management. You can even specialize in information systems, change management, innovation, stuff like this. There's like an endless stream of sort of minor type things that is included in the world of business. And increasingly, as we go into the future, we're seeing that you can get specialty degrees in each of those. So you could take an MBA specializing in HR, or an MBA specializing in business ethics, things like this, right? Each one of those subtopics, you can do a specialty in it. So we're seeing a rise of those things as we go into the future. Okay, so in 2025, the world is moving forward. There's always change, and the MBA, like pretty much every other field of learning, it was originally designed for a different time, okay? It came out, I believe, in the 1850s, somewhere around there, were the first MBAs. And, the interesting thing is that most of the core material has not changed. Accounting has been accounting for a very long time. Finance has been finance for a very long time. We've added to what we know, but the core fundamentals They've been the same since antiquity, actually. So for many things. So it's old stuff, but we've added a lot of new stuff to it, and we are adding more new stuff as we go. Now, one criticism of an MBA is that, we're adding the very latest things to it, and it doesn't always have the very latest things because there's a bit of a lag before it makes its way into educational curriculum. That's the same for any topic, any subject you'd ever want to study. Full disclosure, I have an MBA. I have an MBA specializing in finance. I've been a CEO of a company. So that's where I'm coming from. So I believe I can talk about this topic because I have the thing that I'm talking about. Now, does it make sense for you? Does it make sense for someone who is looking to take this? Yes and no. It depends what your goals are, okay? So if you are wanting to learn business, you are wanting to learn how to make money, you are wanting to go into business, then it might make sense. If you are just wanting to take it because you don't really know what you want to do and you're just sort of like, testing the waters and seeing what's out there, it might not be the thing you would want to do if you're in that situation. We talked about the definition of an MBA. It's basically the scientific study of how to make money, and it means that you are a master of it, okay? The other thing I'd like to point out that is not often talked about is that there's one subject within the MBA, okay, that is very important. That's finance. And this is important because if you are rich, if you come from a rich family, if you're a trust fund baby or anything like that, and you don't want to lose your entire family fortune, you want to be shrewd with money, you want to know what to do with it so that it either grows or it stays the same, it doesn't shrink or diminish, okay? You want to manage it properly, you need to learn finance. That's what finance is. It's the scientific study about money in the future. What should you do with it? How can you make it grow? How can you become a millionaire, whatever your ambition is? So rich kids, they know this stuff. Certainly they know finance, because by the time you get to have money, you need to know how to manage it properly and how it works. Or, as they say, what do they say? A fool and his or her money are soon parted. And that's true. And I've seen that. Okay. Other things. If you are looking to do a career switch, if you have had a conventional career, okay, maybe you've been out in the workforce for 10 years, something like that. You're doing a thing, and the idea of you doing that thing for the rest of your life doesn't really appeal to you. You want to move up, you want to move on, okay? In that case, an MBA might be the ticket for you, because the thing about getting an MBA, certainly for some industries, not all, but some, is they regard it very well, and it's sort of like an instant ticket to climbing the ladder. It's very highly regarded. It opens up a lot of doors for you if you want to get higher level jobs, higher paying jobs, and the other thing is that you can switch disciplines. In fact, normally in university, we talked about the bachelor degree, the thing you take at the beginning, then there's the master's level, and then there's the PhD level where you're like discovering new things that no one has ever known before, right? Master's is like, theoretically, it's mastering what we know, and PhD level, that's like pushing the envelope of human knowledge outwards, like in making discoveries, right? So normally the way it works is you take a bachelor in the thing that you're studying, then you take the master's, right? So you would normally take a bachelor of business first, and then take the master's degree, right? But the MBA, it's kind of a weird exception. You can take a master's in business without having the bachelor degree. If you have something else, like say you've got a bachelor of science or engineering or law or architecture or, any one of a million things, you can take the master's in business, which gives you an idea of how complicated this stuff is. In absolute terms, it's not that complicated. Okay, so that's usually the rule that universities have. You have to have a bachelor degree, but or equivalent or some kind of post-secondary education to qualify for taking the master's. If you just have high school, they probably won't let you into the MBA program. But if you've taken something after high school, then they might, and they usually do. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. But if you want to switch careers, it's great for that. Management is universal in every industry. Okay, if you want to climb the corporate ladder, this is the ticket to do it. Assuming that you're not an idiot and you have good judgment. That's a big assumption. Global credibility. If you have a high-level MBA, it empowers you to go anywhere and do anything almost. So it's very well regarded. And also, if you have an MBA from a university that has a large network of alumni, if you know a lot of these people, if you've taken the trouble to get to know a lot of these people while you were in school, then it really opens up doors for you. I'm not speaking from experience here because that's not me, but I have it on good authority that that's how it works. Okay, let's talk about when an MBA is risky and when it might not make sense for you, okay? And this is going to be where we get into the whole entrepreneurship type thing. Okay, MBAs can be very expensive, okay? If you take into account the opportunity cost, meaning that you're in school instead of earning money during that time, right? If you look at the big picture, if you take a top tier MBA, it can cost you in the neighborhood of $200,000, 200 grand US. Most MBAs don't cost that much. They're substantially less, but $50,000 is certainly, kind of the norm almost as far as I'm aware. If you go to a university and do this, you're going for 2 years, usually full time. Okay. So that means you can't be working really during that time. At least not if you have a family. That's what I found. If you're doing school full time and then you have a family, that pretty much means you can't work. You can't do 3 things. You could do 2. So pick your 2. You could do work and a family. You could do school and work, or you can do work or a family and work. But you can't do 3. You got to sleep sometime. Okay, so that's a bit of a commitment for a lot of people. That's one disadvantage of it. If you don't have a real clear goal, you don't know what you want to do, it might not be the smartest thing to do. In the end, this might not pay off. Okay? And if you're doing this kind of thing, a lot of people take on student debt to do it. Okay? Now, you're getting something for it, but you have to pay. So that's kind of the thing. Okay? Now, you can get online MBAs. You can get, there's other alternatives. The immediate alternative is something called an executive MBA, where you're only going for 1 year and you're doing it while you're working. Now, I don't have an executive MBA, so I don't have firsthand experience. Personally, I'm a little skeptical of that because I feel that it seems to make it work. They have to strip back a lot of the material from an MBA. So you are getting something, but I question the value of it. But then again, I don't know either way. So if someone out there has an executive MBA, you could tell me what you think of it. Okay, now here's the thing. Who might not need an MBA? Entrepreneurs. Now, the conventional wisdom is that entrepreneurs are, you're learning stuff by doing, okay? That's what I've heard. I've heard that you don't need to go to school because you're learning by doing. Now, here's what I have to say to that. Okay, for some people, sure. If you're just bright and brilliant, you're extroverted, and you go and you see a lot of stuff hands-on behind the scenes, great. Definitely that might work for some people, but this is what I would say. I would say that that's an oversimplification, okay? Experience is not the same thing as classroom learning when you're learning the theory of something valid. They are 2 different things. One doesn't replace the other, okay? So I don't care who you are or what you're doing in your life. Learning by doing something is important, No one can tell me, oh yeah, I know the theory, so I don't need ever to get experience. Personally, that just doesn't ring true. In everything I've seen, all the people I've worked with, that doesn't ring true, okay? Hands-on experience is always good, whether you have the theory or not, okay? By the same token, education, certain types of education, if you're learning something valid, that is always good, regardless of whether you have the experience or not. Because, for example, I've worked with a ton of technicians in my time, okay? They fix equipment. Great. They're really good at it, okay? And that's nothing to sneeze at. These people are highly skilled. However, that doesn't mean that they know what an engineer knows. Engineers design the equipment. And sometimes it leads technicians into thinking, just because I service this equipment and I read a book that tells me what to do and I follow the process and I do it, that I know how to design it. And that's false, because you are lacking the theory behind how it works. You might think you know it, but you don't. The engineers do. They don't see what you see, but you don't see what they see. So I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, learning business is always going to help you, as opposed to watching what somebody does, you copying it and thinking you know it all, right? If all of a sudden you encounter a problem that they didn't encounter, you would have no idea how to solve it. Whereas a person who was taught the theory, they understand what might work in that situation and what's likely to work in that situation, even though they've never directly dealt with it before. That's the difference. Okay, so that's my take on it anyway, based on my experience. Self-starters. You might not need this because you might not need everything to be taught to you in class. You can just figure it out by seeing it. You're that good. Right on. Bootstrappers, people that just want to get started with stuff. If you want to do a side hustle, that kind of stuff, great. Like you might not need to go to school to learn what to do. It's really not super complicated, a lot of it, right? So you may not need it. You could make something work without it, right? And we often see that. Side hustlers, if you are working at a day job, you have a regular career, it's a full-time job, and you're trying to do a sort of mini business thing on the side, going back to school for a couple of years is just not an option to be able to do the side hustle thing. So there you go. I mean, it's just not possible. It's impractical. Hello to Sumare and hello to Saku. Sleep is not necessary if you take Adderall. Yeah. Yeah, for 2 years every day. Let's see what that does to you. I'd be interested to hang out with that person after the 2 years. It would be interesting. Okay, now I wanted to point out, as you guys probably are expecting, that yes, I have a course called the $100 MBA. This is not a competitor to a full-blown 2-year accredited brick-and-mortar MBA program, okay, that costs $50,000 on average. It is not a direct competitor. It is a solution that complements that. It might be for some people, whereas the full-blown brick-and-mortar thing might be for others, okay? Now, just for the sheer hell of it, my thing is not accredited, okay? There's no evaluations. There's no schedule. You're getting the raw knowledge from the same sources as a real MBA. You're getting essentially the same textbooks that you are reading on your own. You're getting the knowledge directly. Like it says here, there's no gatekeepers. You just learn what you're interested in. You could do the whole thing like you would in an MBA, take every topic, or you could take a subset of it. And you have the choice between either skimming each topic if you're kind of not super interested, but you want to get an awareness of what it is, or you could go deep, like they would in university. Okay, so you have those options. So it's very, very flexible. There's no prerequisites. If you have high school, basic high school math and basic English, so you can read these textbooks and, understand the material, you can do it. So it's an option for some people. It's self-paced. I provide a lot of videos that guide you through it, but you're basically learning from the textbooks. I give you personal experiences of mine as a CEO and kind of what I think is the more important elements and what are the less important elements. And I share some insights. Okay. And you can apply the stuff as you learn it. That's the whole point. So if you're just wanting to learn business, this is an extremely cost-effective way of doing it, where you are not racking up major student loans and debts and things like that. So it's an option for some people, and a lot of people have bought that course and gotten a lot out of it. Okay. Now let's see here. This is a continuation, I guess. I already kind of explained. You get a full reading. This is my $100 MBA course. You get a full reading list. You get video guides from me. You learn the core skills of the main areas of business: strategy, finance, marketing, operations, leadership. All the same stuff that you would learn in university. And you can do it on any schedule, anywhere, anytime. It's very, very flexible. That's why I created it. You shouldn't need to pay through the nose to learn this stuff. This stuff is out in the public domain. It's accessible. I've put it together and I've become your guide for that. If you are interested in doing that, that has been an option for some people. Now, the full-blown MBA, okay? Going to a university and taking it for 2 years, the honest takeaway, okay? It's a good thing if it fits for your goals. It depends what your goals are. Okay. I guess, I'm sorry. This is going on and on about my course again. I'll just do this very quickly. It's called the $100 MBA. It's lean. It's flexible. It's an alternative path. Okay. And you don't have to worry about debt. That's the big advantage. And it's very flexible. That's the second big advantage. And it's stuff you can apply immediately. So a lot of people that have conventional careers have taken this, and the advantage is they can start to apply this knowledge in their job immediately, and they can see results because they are more aware of how things work. They are given the tools to be able to get things done and be more effective. So you can apply it immediately. You can take it if you have a conventional career, and it will help you get promoted quicker. And it will open up options. People will see you as much more capable, and they will see you as management material. Okay, now let's get off sort of my course here and talk. Oh, that's it. Okay, I left that stuff to the end. I thought I moved it around a bit. But that's basically what I would say about this. So we're going to open it up for questions. So if you have questions about business school, about side hustles, about an MBA, about my course, about like a brick and mortar accredited MBA in a university, about executive MBAs, I'd like to open it up to people. If you are wondering anything, I will do my best to help you out, because that's what this is all about. Definitely very useful. If you are going into business, okay, you want to, even at a very, very small level, like the very, very low level, like a side hustle, understanding the core concepts are essential, because in order to do a successful side hustle, you not only have to have your operations down, do the thing that you're doing, like making a product or providing a service, right? You have to have that down. You have to understand basic things like accounting, right? How do you determine if your side hustle is profitable, for example? You have money going in, you're spending money on it. You have money coming out, you're spending money on it. Sometimes when you get paid there's a lag, there's a delay. Same with when you incur expenses, depending on what you're doing. Sometimes you pay for them up front. Other times they send you an invoice and you have to pay them later, right? So it can be, if you don't know anything about accounting, it can be very hard to even determine if you're making money or not, So basic things like that, you would need to know accounting, or at least the basics of it. Finance is money in the future. Like, what should you do? Matters of risk or return or expected returns, right? Things like this. If you are taking out debt, how much debt? Why would you want to take out debt? Why would you not want to? All this kind of stuff. Probably the most important area of business when you're doing a side hustle is marketing. Okay, being able to get customers. Marketing is the scientific study of customers and potential customers, right? So if you're wanting to know how to make something popular, you study marketing. That's what it is. It's all about answering three fundamental questions. One is, who is my audience, my target market? Okay, who are they? Okay, how do I reach them? Okay, how do I connect with them? Is that online? Is that in the real world? How do I reach these people? And then the third question is, what message can I send them that will make them want to do business with me? Right? So basically, who are these people? How how can I find them? Where are they? How can I get in touch with them? And what do I say to them? That's marketing. And if you understand how that works, you understand the strategy you should take, you understand the tactics of how to do each of these properly, that brings a lot of customers to your door that are eager, they have money, they want to buy your thing, and they're really into what you do. That's what marketing is. So to me, I think that when it comes to entrepreneurship, marketing is by far the most important area. If you get your marketing down, all you then have to do is deliver the thing you said you were going to do, right? And that's operations. Okay, so marketing is pretty much the thing. Now, I work with a lot of introverts, introverted type people, because on YouTube, there are a lot of introverted type people on YouTube. And when introverted people ask me, what should I do if I'm trying to start a side hustle or I'm trying to start a business or something, they tend to have the operation side down, right? They have this idea of a thing they want to build or make or provide. They got that down. Usually their weak spot is marketing, because they are not extroverts. They're not used to being tuned into how everybody thinks and where they are. And, they don't have a ton of experience interacting with people at large. That's usually where they need the most assistance, right? So it starts with learning the basic principles of marketing. A big thing that has been a recurring theme throughout my time as a mentor for startup founders and business owners, or small business owners anyway, is this idea that in their heads, as they're planning their entrepreneurial venture, they always seem to think, build it and they will come. I'll just make this thing, and then somehow everyone will instantly see it. And the moment they see it, they'll go, I want that thing. And I get out my wallet and I pay you whatever you want, and then I'll take two because my sister's birthday is coming up. They imagine this. And what they find is that while they're very, very good at the operation side of things, it doesn't work like that. You make this thing and nobody cares. Nobody hears about it. So you've got to get the word out. It won't happen by itself. You have to actively get the word out. And marketing tells you what to do. It gives you an idea of what that's going to look like, So that's kind of the single biggest thing that I think a lot of would-be entrepreneurs and people who have side hustles want to do. Certainly the introverts. I have worked with extroverts that are in a similar situation, but they have the opposite problem. They have the marketing stuff down. The problem is they don't have anything to sell. And that's their issue. So they're weak on the operation side, right? So to me, as an introvert, I always regard that as a much easier problem to solve. It's like, how could that be a problem for you? But yeah, so the idea is you go to business school, you learn all of this, right? And it's a very, very useful thing if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to work for yourself, if you want to do a side hustle, right? Just on the side. If you want to climb the ladder at your corporate job, your day job, you don't want to be seen as a worker your whole life. You might want to get a nice cushy job. You might feel that, like, look, I understand this. I'm ready for learning something a bit higher up. Like if I'm a mechanic, I understand the whole mechanics thing. I understand how to work on this equipment. I've been doing it for years. I get it. What I'm interested in doing now maybe is running my own shop. We deal with being a mechanic, but I'm also dealing with other things like drumming up business, making more money, managing the money, allocating it properly. What should I spend it on if I want to be more profitable? Do I need to spend more money? Or is it just a matter of doing something different? If I have to spend more money, what should I spend it on? I've got about 1,000 options. I can't do them all. I can only do maybe one or two. Which ones should I do? Right? That's the kind of thing that business school will help you with, right? Knowing business will answer those questions for you. They'll tell you what to do. It'll tell you what order you should do it in. And it will tell you what you need to see to know if something is working or not. It's things like that, right? So, yeah, we're not getting a lot of questions. I see there's 15 people here. You guys are awesome. If you have any questions about business or the MBA as a degree or as a qualification or as a career, your career track to that aspect, or what you learn with it, or is it valuable? Should you do it? If you have any questions of those natures, get in the chat right now. Let me know. If I don't get any questions, I have no choice but to sign off. So, so this is your moment of glory has arrived. Okay, let's put it that way. But yeah, check out this course if you are interested. I have links to it in the description box under this live stream. So check out the links. I've also made a video that's like an FAQ video. It explains how the course works, what you get, how everything fits together, in an effort to try and make everything very transparent. So check that out. Check out the link to the course. And maybe for the sheer hell of it, I'll just kill time for a second and I will just show you guys what the page looks like for the course itself. And you can see what's in it. You can see how this is all laid out. So if I can find that, I'm not having a lot of luck finding that. Let's try this. Okay, yeah, here we go. I'll take you guys through that and you can see what it is. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. Here we go. First of all, do this. So this is the link to the course itself. There's a blurb there. Okay, talking about who it's for. Testimonials. Okay, here's what you see. So you've got 18 lessons. You've got about 6 hours of video content, but that's not the primary value. Okay, you're going to be learning each of these. Does this have a drop down? Yes. So you can see like what you're getting here. There's sort of an intro module to this. Let's break this all out here so we can go through it. Okay, and this is a mirror of the way MBAs that are accredited in universities, brick and mortar universities, this is how they're structured too. It's exactly the same thing. So you've got a bit of an intro that explains the course and what to do to get your books and everything. You first learn about management, what it is. Okay, I give you some insights. I give you an overview of the material, and then I give you some insights of mine on it. And then you read the textbook or you skim it, depending on what you want to do. Marketing, okay? We were just talking about that. A big deal. Okay, I give you an overview and then I give you my insights. Accounting, pretty big thing there. If you ever wanted to understand the basics of accounting, okay, you can actually understand more than the basics with this if you go and do it properly and read everything and do all the exercises and stuff. If you just skim it, you'll get the basics, okay? Once again, content and insights from me on it. Organizational behavior. If you don't know what this is how people behave in organizations, in companies. You might have seen a lot of weird things going on in your workplace that you can't quite explain. An example of that would be an employee who isn't the boss, but yet they seem to hold more power than the boss. They tell the boss what to do and they get away with it. And you might be thinking like, that doesn't make any sense. The boss is technically in charge, right? What's going on? Well, this explains exactly what's going on. And it gets quite complicated, and it's all about people's incentives and motivations and how they work together. And, it's basically giving you the hack for all of that, for understanding everything. And then being able, now that you understand what's going on, being able to make happen what you would want to happen. Make people behave the way you would have them behave. Okay, finance. Accounting is money in the past, finance is money in the future. That's basically the where that's split. So this is what to do with money, where you can get money. Should we invest in this? Should we take the money and spend it on a marketing campaign? What should we do? Right? That's finance. Economics, that's looking above the level of a company. It's looking at an economy at whole. You're looking at the whole system of business, right? And there's macroeconomics on a big scale. There's microeconomics when you bring that right down and look at like a business, right? Like the firm. You look at, it's called microeconomics and, price versus volume sold and all this kind of stuff, supply and demand, all that kind of stuff. Innovative problem solving. This is a compilation of a couple of things, including innovation, things like trees, if you've ever heard of that. So it's a lot of stuff in there. And then you have a ton of electives. I don't think I broke them down in the public thing here, but you get a lot of electives. I give you books you can order and read for cheap on different areas, things that I've read, that I've studied, that I know about. So I give you book recommendations, and you can go outward from there. So that's what you get for $100. So check that out if you're interested. Now, Jason is here, says, is an MBA worth it? No business experience, career change. Okay, well, I just answered that in this live stream. So that's what this whole live stream is about. And we're approaching the end of it. And I've finished my presentation. We're taking questions. You'd have to go back and watch the presentation. In a nutshell, it depends what your goals are. Okay. That's the first thing. Okay. Secondly, you can get an MBA. You can learn that material, get that knowledge on the very small scale for something like what I'm doing. I'm charging you $100 for this. This is a solution for some people. It is unaccredited. It's just the knowledge that you can apply immediately in your job or to start a business or to do your side hustle. For some people, that's the perfect solution. You're getting the knowledge, you're getting perfect flexibility with no debt, no student loans. Okay, so there's a place for that. On the high end, you've got MBAs that cost, like we talked about earlier, they can cost very easily $200,000 US when you take into account opportunity cost, right? That means that if you're in school for 2 years learning this, you're in university, you're not out making money. So it's also costing you 2 years' salary, right, to do this thing, right? You got the tuition, plus you have all the stuff you're giving up to do it, right? That's a lot of debt, right? Now, there's considerable advantages to doing that if you do that, right? Not a lot of people do, but the ones who do, there are things that they can get out of it. They can get access to the networks and all this kind of stuff. That really, really helps. And there's stuff in between. You can get an MBA you pay $50,000 for. It's a lesser university, but it's still well regarded. It might be well regarded in your region or your city, and that can open up a lot of doors. You can change careers doing this, and you can move up. So it really depends on all those factors, and you have to start narrowing it down to really determine if it makes sense for you. But usually, in my opinion, based on my experience, some version of that will make sense, okay? Because without it, you are essentially stuck being a worker your whole life. Now, for some people, if you're fine with that, that's perfectly okay. Other people may not be satisfied with that. That might be okay in your 20s. Maybe in your 50s, you're getting tired of it. You would like to move up. You would like to learn more. You'd like to be in charge, So this can be a vehicle for that, depending on what you're looking for. Right? And then the big thing is the ROI, is looking at the cost versus the payoff. Obviously, if you're dropping essentially $200,000 on something, you're going to need a big payoff. If you're dropping $50,000 on it, you're going to need a lesser payoff, but you would have to compare the money you're going to be making without the MBA as you go for the next, 20 years versus the money you could be making with an MBA over the next 20 years. But you're going to have a specific plan so you can get hopefully somewhat accurate numbers for these. And then you figure out okay, the premium that I'm making with the MBA, is that worth dropping $50,000 and taking 2 years off now, right? So it depends on your solution, it depends on your goals, and it depends on what option you take, because an MBA can mean several different things. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I think we pretty much covered it for the moment in the absence of questions. So thank you to Sumares, thank you to Saku, thank you to Jason, thank you to everybody who participated. Check out that course if you want to learn business. Best bang for the buck around. I've been a CEO and I've gone from a supervisor to a CEO, and I can tell you learning business is a good thing. It's the scientific study of how to make money. And if you want to make money, kind of the thing to learn, you know what I mean? So there you go. I will be back in about an hour. I have another live stream today. We're not talking about business. We're talking about job search and careers and getting hired and stuff like that. I think I have a collaboration with Abby from the YouTube channel Life Work Balance today that's going to be live on this channel, where we answer your questions about job search and stuff like that. So if you're looking for that, check that out. I'm not 100% sure that we're doing that today, but either way, I will be back in just over an hour to talk about that stuff. I will see you guys next week, same time, for another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. You're awesome. Never forget that. And, fulfill your potential. That's all I'm saying. Life is long. You can learn many things. You can do many things. So follow your bliss. Thanks very much. Take care.